I believe it was just yesterday you and I were saying here on this very same live stream podcast, the biggest mistake they ever made was allowing people like Jimmy Kimmel and others and then real serious political people to make political threats. And the game has changed, but nothing's really going to change until they take action. Well, I think action is here with Comey's indictment, the former FBI director. And he's been indicted again over the 8647 message on the beach and all the other stuff. This is different this time. And I'm here to tell you this is way different. But I want you to watch out for the spin because it's already started. It happened as soon as they announced the indictment yesterday. Well, this is just Donald Trump going after his political enemies. No. This is a wider thing, and it's not just about Comey. This is about stopping all these threats that they've gotten away with for so long. So watch out for the spin. But this is an amazing development. What do you mean? He was indicted the first time, nothing happened. Yeah, but not like this. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Thanks for finding me, the Wicked Radio live stream, replay, podcast, all that good stuff, X, YouTube, Facebook, and the audio podcast as well, wherever you get those. You all heard it. Massive news, front page news, number one trending story in the world right now. This is Kash Patel, the current FBI director, announcing it.
As you heard from the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney, former FBI Director James Comey, has now been indicted for 2 felony counts. While many of you may read this indictment and view this matter as a simple investigation, it is the farthest thing from that. Every single investigation this FBI and our partners at the Department of Justice undertake, especially those that involve the threats to harm or hurt or even kill individuals, whether they hold public office or civilians in our country, are met with the same measure of investigative prowess and tools and personnel in partnership with the Department of Justice as anyone else. As the U.S. Attorney indicated, James Comey will be afforded every matter of due process under the United States Constitution. And as the Attorney General indicated, this has been a case that's been investigated over the past 9, 10, 11 months.
Okay, so that's key. So that's the first thing. This didn't just happen like after the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's like, okay, who else has made threats against the president? Let's go after him. All right, let's go get Comey. No, this has been in the works for a long time. But there's something different about this. So this grand jury was convened in North Carolina, not the political swamp safe zone for swamp creatures like James Comey. North Carolina, because that's where it all went down. The beach. Remember the beach thing where he posted it on Instagram like a 13-year-old teenage girl, the picture of 8647 written out in the shells. Remember that? And puts it on Instagram. And he claimed at the time and did his big media appearances. He's promoting his book that he didn't know what that was about. Now stop and think for a second how gross and disgusting this is. And this kind of goes to all of it. It's all tied up in one. It's like an umbrella issue. Comey does that to release a book. How gross is it that a late-night host like Stephen Colbert, at the time, brings on the former FBI director to promote his book? Is that like a stellar A-list celebrity guest you bring on? No. No, you bring on guests like that for a reason, because this is all part of the propaganda. You remember at the time, too, do you remember this? Remember this famous clip that's making the rounds once again? Comey pretty much admitting that he knew exactly what 8647 meant when he took the picture and posted it on Instagram like a teenage girl. Sounds like an admission to me.
I think it's a clever political message. And she said, you should take a picture of it. I said, sure. And then she said, you should Instagram that. And boom.
Well.
Yeah. You should Instagram that, hon. Yeah. No, I just thought my wife thought it was a restaurant message. Right. All coordinated, all propaganda, all a message, and all threatening. And as we said yesterday, all the threats come from one direction. Things are different now. And no, this didn't just pop up out of the blue. This has been in the works for a long time. But President Trump at the time knew exactly what it meant, too. He didn't forget about it. Remember this?
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become
and then he goes into Trump mode. Because, Brett, look at the economy. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. Now, he said there that he was hit very hard. Comey was in the first indictment, right? But that went nowhere. And that's where, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking this, because I thought it too. Nothing's ever going to happen to these people. And this was last year. Nothing's going to happen to these people. They can make all the threats they want. They can They can put out political messages there. They can actually enact violence. Remember, it even started way back when with Michelle Obama. When they go high, we go lower and all that other crap. And we got to get in their faces and we have to, all this stuff. And nothing ever happened. And regular, normal, everyday Americans, patriotic Americans like you and me, we all said, they just get away with it. Not anymore. But like I said, this has been in the works for quite some time. Now, before we get into the spin you got to watch out for, listen to this from last night. And this guy's name is Mike Davis. He's got a project called the Article 3 Foundation, pretty much to make he's kind of like a judiciary guy, and he was on the nominating committee before. He's pretty much a badass, but he wants to make sure that these lunatic rogue judges aren't there anymore. But he knows the law inside and out. He said something fascinating to me last night. Is Comey actually going to be perp walked? You remember? It was James Comey who was the guy, by the way. Not only the Russia collusion stuff, not only going after Mike Flynn, all this stuff, protecting Hillary and the laptop and all that other crap and all the other stuff. He was also the guy under his leadership that dragged Roger Stone out of his house in the middle of the night while CNN cameras were already there. You remember that, right? Would it be unfair? Would it be uncouth to drag this guy out of his house? Or is he going to turn himself in? That's the question we're all asking. Well, this Mike Davis had a great answer to that.
So North Carolina does make a difference, but I want to also ask you about, is he going to self-surrender? Will he be arrested? I mean, a warrant has been issued. How do you see this playing out?
Well, he better turn himself in. Otherwise, you're going to see the U.S. Marshals go arrest him. Remember, I have zero sympathy for James Comey. This is the same James Comey as the FBI director when President Trump started the first time, who set up a political hit on General Michael Flynn, President Trump's national security advisor. Comey has politicized and weaponized the FBI intel agencies to go after Trump. He got caught lying about it before Congress. I hope this is just the beginning of James Comey's legal troubles.
Hey, Mike, really?
Wouldn't that be something? Now, by the time you watch this on a replay or listen to it later on, he may have turned himself in already, may have been perp walked, may have been grabbed out of his house. I don't know what's going to happen there, in real time. But Mike Davis mentioned General Flynn there for a second. And if you know General Flynn's story, whatever you think of him now, what he went through was absolutely horrific, because he was the first person that was connected to Trump and his administration that they went after politically and basically ruined his life before things finally settled down. General Flynn posted last night he'd like to be the arresting officer, which I think he can actually do. That would be amazing. That would be incredible to see. But oh no, there's of course a response. Now, Comey is also famous. He's done several of these, I think maybe 4 or 5, especially the infamous one when he was indicted the first time. He does these videos explaining what's going on. Like after the first time, the 8647 message went out when he posted on Instagram, again, like a teenage little girl. He's doing it again, and his videos always look like hostage videos because he does them against a wall. Well, of course, he's claiming innocence, of course. And this is the begin of the spin that this is just political retribution. This is Donald Trump going after his enemies.
Now they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go. But it's really important that all of us remember this is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values.
Now, you know better than anybody. Nobody has to explain this to you, but I'll say it anyway, exactly what he's saying there. It's like, this is not the way the Department of Justice should act. What he's saying is they're out of power and they're not getting away with all of the threats and the violence and taking out the political enemies. It's like they're just trying to restore that again. You know exactly what he's saying there. But isn't it interesting? Well, they're back, and it's just the beginning. Now, the reason why he thought he could get away with that the first time was because how he got away with it the first time. Because the Department of Justice was so incredibly corrupt that this kind of stuff could actually happen. It's a different game now. It's completely different in the people who were put in charge, and more on Todd Blanche in just a second here, but also the entire temperament of the country has changed over the last few months. Or you go back to last year, or even Butler during the campaign, Butler, PA, with the threats against President Trump. I said this on Monday, 2 days ago, and I still believe it, even more so than then. I think there's more people in this country now than ever that understand the danger of the political threats and, more importantly, where they're coming from. They're coming from those guys over there on the left. And here's the difference. They've gotten away with it for years until now. And this just wasn't the change in the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It wasn't just that, but it did put this story on the fast track. Why? Like, why does it matter now? Because of you. Because of people. Because of awareness. Because you're demanding justice now. They hear it. They do. And I know sometimes it feels like people, they never hear our voice. Yeah, I wanted Trump to get in again, but, nothing I care about matters. Yes, it does. The people in that administration hear it, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. Speaking of work, now we got to get to Todd Blanche. More on this guy in just a second. His part of the press conference yesterday, to me, was fascinating. And he put to bed preemptively the theory that this is all just Trump going after his enemies. Because I told you, you're going to hear that a lot. You've already heard it so far. You're going to hear that all over the place from now to kingdom come. This is exactly what they're saying. Because the lefty lunatics always accuse what they're actually doing. You know what I mean? So they're going to say, Trump's going after his enemies. No. They were trying to take him out. So Todd Blanche laid out the case and preemptively struck that down right away by explaining that this is from North Carolina. And this has been in the works for a long time. Here he is.
So I think it's fair to say that threatening the life of anybody is dangerous and potentially a crime. Threatening the life of the President of the United States will never be tolerated by the Department of Justice. Over the past year, this department has charged dozens of cases involving threats against all sorts of individuals. We take these seriously, every single one of them. For example, just today in the Northern District of Florida, there was a guilty plea from an individual who threatened multiple political leaders, including President Trump. In the Eastern District of North Carolina, where this case was indicted earlier today, there are multiple threats cases very similar to this one, including one where the defendant pled guilty recently to threatening former President Biden. Another.
That is huge, because every time they come out and they say this is just Trump going after people he doesn't like, and you've already heard that spin from the idiots on The View and MS Now and CNN and all this other crap. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche just completely popped that balloon, because they're also now under this wide-ranging umbrella. They're going after anybody that makes these political threats, anybody, including the two cases you heard about that right there. One in North Carolina itself for some lunatic that was threatening the life of former President Joe Biden. Across the board, even-handed, going after all of this rhetoric. But we know where it started, don't we? It's been going on for freaking years, and they've gotten away with it for years. All of this rhetoric, all of this violence, and you now have proof that this has revved up all of the mentally unstable lunatics like the White House Correspondents' Dinner potential shooter just the other night. The buck stops here. This case has been going on for a while. They've been working on it for a while, but this just jumped to the forefront. They're going to put a stop to this violence. I don't know what's going to happen with Comey. Who does? Who's the legal expert that knows about this? But I think they have him rock solid, because this was a grand jury indicting him, not President Trump. This is a grand jury of people in North Carolina, same state where the beach exists, where he set out the little rocks making the 86-47 threat, and was so arrogant at the time, maybe rightfully so, because he knew that the Department of Justice at the time was so corrupt. Well, that's been cleaned out, and it's a different game now, and this should make you happy. But again, I'm going to leave you with this. The spin is, you're going to hear this everywhere, because this is now they're going after this. They're going to stop the violence. You're going to hear this threat everywhere. This is Trump. And they never say President Trump. This is Donald Trump going after his political enemies. Don't you buy it. Don't you buy it. Because they started this rhetoric, and under the very smart, hopefully permanent leadership in that department of Attorney General Todd Blanche, they're going after anybody that makes political threats on any side, any lunatic. That's huge. How about this Todd Blanche guy, though, for a quick second? I may have been completely wrong about the Pam Bondi deal. I think she's a great person. I was familiar with her. I've actually interviewed her before when she was Attorney General in Florida. Badass, very, very competent. I understand all the criticism, and I was pushing back at it at the time. It's like, when she was Attorney General at the federal level, nothing's happening. She's not making any arrests. Nothing's going on. I get it. And I was saying, look, these cases take time. I understand it. But It's hard to make the argument that things aren't more effective right now because they are. Somebody put together a fantastic list just the other night of what this Todd Blanche as acting attorney general has done. Boy, would I like to see personally this guy as the permanent attorney general. It's hard to keep track of all this stuff because the news is so crazy and it changes all the time. Under his watch, this is what's happened so far. The Somali fraudsters mass raided yesterday. This just happened. Remember the Quality Leering Center that Nick Shirley uncovered in Minneapolis? All that's happening. Fauci's main guy, his right-hand man, just got arrested and indicted. The guy who was covering things. We're probably going to have a lot more on that tomorrow. Of course, the Comey indictment we were talking about today. Act Blue, the Democrat fundraising machine, is under investigation right now. Maybe you didn't hear about that. Not making a lot of headlines. It's a massive story that happened under his watch. Of course, you know about the Southern Poverty Law Center, talking about that last week. That hate hoax operation has been investigated. John Brennan, there's another weasel who's out there saying, he's one of the main ones out there doing interviews this morning saying that this is just political retribution against Comey. Former CIA director, one of the worst swamp monsters of all time. He's being investigated. Fannie Willis, remember her in Georgia? She's being investigated. All of the above probably are going to prison at some point soon. This is under Todd Blanche as he's been acting attorney general. Okay. If you guys were clamoring at me in the comments saying, stop defending Pam Bondi, she's not doing anything. I'm starting to hear it. Although I think maybe she was like setting up the cases for these different things and Todd took it over. Regardless, who the hell cares? This guy's doing an amazing job. So let's see what happens with Comey. By the time you're watching or listening to this on replay, maybe he turned himself in. Maybe he's arrested already. I have no idea. But as of right now, this is the one big main thing and the big takeaway. Don't buy this political spin and this propaganda that this is just Trump going after his political enemies, because that's not the case. This case has been on the books for, I think, 11 months, Kash Patel said. This is more than just that. But it's true. All these threats, all this political rhetoric, all of this violence, and all this stuff that revs up the deranged lunatics out there, will not be tolerated anymore. And they're going back and they're looking back to see who made all these threats. And I think you know who that is. So don't you buy it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate you. Wicked Radio replay, live stream, X, YouTube, and on Facebook. Mainly the audio podcast, which is where most of you found it. And a lot of you have found it. Thanks so much for that. Download, subscribe, like, share, whatever platform requires you to do that. Thanks for doing it. And I appreciate you. It's midweek. Make it a wicked awesome Wednesday. Don't buy that spin. I'm telling you, you know better. I'll talk to you tomorrow.